right? So I've got my pole on static and we are attacking the beginning section of this combo. So to start with, we're kind of gonna go into a snowflake spin. So for this one, it's a lot like a forward falling spin. So I'm taking my inside hand all the way to the top of the pole, nice tall extension. You can see I'm up off the balls of my feet. And you can kind of see that I've started this in a staggered stance. So staggered stance meaning my inside leg is in front and my outside leg is kind of pivoting to the back. The reason for that is because I'm gonna open up this hip and I'm gonna open up this leg in like this big circle. And that's gonna give me momentum that I need to get this spin going. The inside foot, the inside leg and everything is gonna stay put and it's gonna pivot while the outside leg is opening me up in that big circle. So as I come around the pole, I'm also gonna attach my lower hand to the pole in a pistol grip. So it's gonna look something like this. Here, open and catch. So we're gonna practice that bit. And what's the hard part is having your legs straight during the spin. So what it looks like is this. You open up and straight. If you still feel like you're not getting quite as much momentum, you can actually start away from the pole. I actually like doing this. I can kind of like walk up to the pole and give myself an extra boost of momentum, but you still want to have that same stance, right? So I still want to have, boom, I want the inside leg in front and the outside leg in the back. So if I was to walk up to the pole, I would go 1, catch, 2, open, and pistol. The other tip on keeping your legs straight when you're in that snowflake is going to be really making sure that you're pointing your legs, okay? When you're in the snowflake position, you're not like putting much weight in your feet. If anything, you're putting majority of your weight in your hands. So you should technically kind of be able to lift your feet off the ground in this split grip stance that we've set up for ourselves. And you can practice this as well, lining up your pistol grip, not hyperextending in the bottom hand, and then a nice high grip up top. And just put your feet away from the pole, straighten them out, and then roll your feet on the face of the feet. So you're not using the bottom of your feet, you're using the top of your feet. I'm wearing socks. You can kind of easily see that I'm able to slide around on the ground pretty easily on the face of my feet. So away from the pole, breaking it down step by step. We're gonna go inside leg 1, inside hand 2, nice and tall, and 3 is going to be the outside of our body, our legs, our hip, and our leg. Opening up, we're pivoting on that inside leg and catching onto the pole. Now I'm gonna show you how I'm putting a little bit more power into this. Again, the key for that momentum is going to be really opening up your body, open chest, open leg, and close it really quickly. So it's kind of like I'm delaying the entrance, delay, fall, and close quick. So from our snowflake, we're gonna transition into our next movement. Pretending that we just did our snowflake, legs are in that straddle. What we're gonna do is we're going to take our, not our leading leg, which was our left on that side we were working on, but our lagging leg. For me, that's my right leg, okay? And what that's gonna do is it's gonna weave its way between my left leg and the pole. So it's crossing through. So setting up the snowflake again, going into it. 1, 2, 3, and then lagging leg through, like that. After you've weaved your leg through, what you're gonna do is you're gonna push your hips forward and to the other side. You might find that that's kind of feels like a tight fit, being able to kind of squeeze your hips through here. The key to getting your hips on the other side of the pole from here is going to be, okay, you place that foot in front that you're weaving, put your weight all in that front foot, no weight back here. So I'm holding on for dear life with the top hand, pistol grip leaves. Okay, so supports here and here. Watch my hip here. My hip points, 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 boom. It's like I'm flashing my butt to the camera. And that allows my hip to go up, and it gives more space for this leg to slide in. If I didn't pick my butt up during that transition, if I kept it low like this, you're gonna find it's really hard to slide this leg in and get a smooth transition. So again, like butter, through, put the weight here, push the butt up. Yes. So after you've reached this point here, and your butt's up in the air and you're in front of the pole, we're actually gonna keep turning, okay? So my butt's gonna keep rotating towards the camera, and my head is gonna sneak under the pole, like this. I'm just gonna show you from a different angle what it's looking like. So from that snowflake, I'm using the same side on all of this just to avoid some confusion. So here I am coming out of the snowflake. Weave that leg through, put all your weight there. Push the butt up. And I keep the weight on that same leg. I'm not putting any weight on this one at any time. And I keep rotate, 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 rotate. And here, now I'm on this side. You should have now at this point, your shoulder is touching the pole, and you've still got that twisted grip happening at the top. From this transition, this top hand can actually slide down. See how it slides? And that gives me more space away from the pole. If I kept this hand up here really high and I didn't allow it to move, I might run into issues finding the space that's required for my head to fit through. See how tight that is? But if I lower the hand, aha, I can move my butt away from the pole and slide in. All right, so let's look at everything we have covered so far, starting with our snowflake spin. So inside leg, grabbing with the inside arm. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Weave through that lagging leg, put all your weight there. We're gonna slide that back leg, hips are moving away and up, slide the head under. Continue turning until your shoulder is by the side of the pole. So after you have found this position right here with that twisted grip, we're then going to transition into a different movement. So our head is actually going to move back the way it came, so it's going to sneak under. Before we do that though, our inside foot, for me that's my right, has to sneak out. Okay, so sneak out behind me. As that's happening, the outside foot is going to stay where it's at, and it's going to be bending at the knee. So I'm getting lower, lower, lower. Hips are away from the pole, and as this is happening, this hand here reaches on the same side of the pole that this leg is extending, and that's when I shoot that head through. So I'll show you from a different angle here. Okay, so inside foot starts coming out, and this hand starts to join it, bending at the knee, open, 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 and we're out. As you are spinning out, you're spinning through this outer foot. For me, it's my left again. This hand kind of helps you push, like kind of claw your way through. So I'm kind of clawing my head back in the direction of you guys, so it's kind of pulling me in. This leg is also assisting with that. So if I'm moving quick enough, this leg kind of like opening me up is giving me a little bit of momentum to get my head through. But this hand, one, it's keeping me so I don't hit my head on the pole, but it's also giving me a little extra push as I am spinning out away from the pole. Looking at it from the snowflake, we'll start here, same side. Weave that foot through. Keep your hips up and away here. Okay, I'm gonna come down. See how this hand is sliding down so you can come closer to the floor, getting a nice stretch. And this is to allow that hand to be able to reach the ground. If I'm too high, I obviously won't be able to have that hand help me out. So keep it low enough so that you can reach. This foot slides out, bending that knee, open, hands helping me here. All right, I'm gonna try it all together again from this top. So snowflake, 1, 2, 3, lagging leg weaves through, hips up, 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 keep turning, 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 slide down with that pistol, or the twisted grip, sorry, and elongating the inside leg, hand is helping me, extend, here. From this point, if you're here, we're actually gonna continue moving that way. So we're kind of spinning in this direction, right? We're gonna continue that motion, and we're gonna extend through this bent leg to stand up. So basically, it's that. So just continuing the spin and extending through that bent knee to stand up. The one thing that I'm going to make different when we're standing up is putting this knee onto the pole so that we can get into our Jasmine. So again, breaking that down. After we get out of this twisty transition, where we're opening up, just bear in mind that this leg has to hook onto the pole. That's it. Just remember, keep it up and hook. Everything from the top again, starting with our snowflake. 1, 2, 3. Weave it through, hips up and away, turn, 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 turn. Lower your hand, extending, bend the knee, hand helps us, and hook on the way up. So, starting off, why I'm going on the ground to begin with. Let's say that we're entering the Jasmine by hooking our right knee onto the pole. We're gonna mimic that same thing on the ground here. So to do that, you're gonna slide your left leg behind the pole, and your right leg is gonna come up nice and high, and it's going to hook the knee on the pole. If you can see that, you can see a lot of my skin's kind of bunching up here, getting a really good tug and grip on the skin behind my knee. That's great. The other key element that we're going to look at down here is this bottom leg and the hip flexor and where that's connecting with the back of the pole. Ideally, when you get into your Jasmine, you want the hip flexor, which is this portion of your leg, to be in contact with the back of the pole like this. Kind of see how I snuck in nice and deep with the pole there. And ideally, again, you want this leg to be nice and straight. You want your quad to be engaged, and you want this foot, you can see the end of my foot, the toes are pointed. It's almost like it's coming towards you guys, towards the camera. And what I'm trying to look for here in this position is, as I'm pushing this leg forward and this knee is nice and locked on the pole, you kind of feel this pinch in between your legs so that the pole is really trapped there. And you don't feel like you're going to go anywhere. This is a very secure position, and it's actually going to take a lot of your weight off of your arms as you're getting into the Jasmine. The main issue that people have when they're getting into their Jasmine is that this bottom leg here isn't deep enough on the pole. So a lot of people hit this leg behind the pole, and the leg is too low in relation to the pole. Remember, because we want the pole here on the hip flexor, not this shallow on like the quad area. Now I'm just going to show you what getting into your Jasmine on the ground is supposed to look like. Right here. So the first thing that you could tell that I did is I grabbed with my inner hand. So for me, that's going to be my right hand, reaching up nice and tall on the pole. And the next thing I did is I came up onto the balls of my feet, so really high up, came in about a little less than a foot away from the base of the pole. And you could maybe tell that I kind of lifted my inner hip up. So my right hip is being, boom, flexed up. And that's just to help me get this knee up nice and high on the pole. If my knee were to grab the pole really low, then I would have a very low Jasmine, which probably won't feel very comfortable or safe for you if this is your first couple attempts at the movement. What we want to think about doing is, again, grab the pole nice and high, right hand, bring that hip up on the right, nice and high grip here. And here's actually where I want to make the first adjustment with this upper hand. Often I'll see that it is too high, and this is where we can have a little bit of adjustment. See how I just brought that right hand down? And the reason I did that is because I want to train myself to make this support system right here in my arm. So I came in, bottom hand, left for me, in a pistol grip. So index finger pointing down, remainder of the fingers are wrapped around the pole. So you can see my arms are kind of making this triangle shape between the pole and themselves. And my knee is kind of hanging out in the middle of it. And as far as like the position, the relation between that knee and the hands, you actually want to place the knee here closer to the top hand than it is to the bottom hand. The reason for that, okay, and you might feel it's a little bit more secure when you actually attempt to lift up this leg. If this hand was way up here and this hand was just placed wherever, and I come into the pole, I'm gonna feel like I barely am doing anything with this bottom hand. I want the bottom hand to actually contribute equally with the top arm, right? This one's pulling and this one's pushing. And the only way you're gonna get that equal weight distribution on the two arms is if, and you play with this, play with the positioning of the hands in relation to this knee. You wanna push and you wanna feel a pull in the shoulder. Pull, push, that's the triangle of support. And your knee here, if it's got a really good grip, again, nice hook, it should take a little bit of the weight off. So it doesn't feel like if you were to lift that leg, you would just fall to the ground. And it's totally normal when you start to swing in that bottom leg to be a little bit afraid, right? Sometimes that can be kind of daunting for people like, wait a minute, this is the only thing that's keeping me on the ground. I don't want it to leave the ground, but it has to. And you're gonna feel comfortable having it leave the ground if this support system is set up correctly. So just experiment with it a little bit and you're gonna find that, okay, it's actually possible to lift up that leg. And when it is lifted up, again, you want it to be here in the hip flexor. A lot of you are gonna find when you first get into your Jasmine that the bottom leg is kind of hitting too low initially, and that's okay. So it's probably gonna look something like this, right? Too low, and that's fine. If it is too low, right, you just didn't swing it in a little deep enough, this bottom hand, because it's in that pistol grip, what it can actually do is it grabs and it kind of helps me pull in. See how my hip comes off the pole? And boom, I lock it in. So when I say locking, that's kind of what I was describing on the ground by putting the pole right here on my hip flexor. Locking to me, right, and get in that position, and I'm here. This isn't exactly locked. Locking into the pole is initiated by pulling the hip flexor in here. I'm still not locked in. Kind of see how I'm loose here? Like my pole is kind of still sliding around with that hip flexor. Locking means you're pushing the foot forward. I'm engaging this quad and boom. I can kind of feel that there's pressure behind the pole here, enough pressure I can let go of my top hand, and the bottom hand's pushing right here. So pushing, pushing, and this pins that in. And then of course the top knee is helping out a lot. And the top hand is. You don't have to let go of the top hand though, that's not necessary. But this right here is me locking in the pull into my Jasmine. Unlocked, locked. You kind of see the difference here. Here, it's pretty tight. Another thing that I'll see people do, and it makes your Jasmine more uncomfortable when I see it, is that their body is like really tilted up in their Jasmine. So let me show you what I mean. I get here, I lock it in, but sometimes people get into this position where their head and their spine is like really like pointed sideways. And this is okay, this is fine. You wanna make sure you're keeping that leg locked again. I like to actually slide both hands down. You can see that, they're sliding down, so that you can see my torso is becoming parallel with the ground. If I was up here in that weird position and I try letting go of that top hand, it's really hard on my bottom hand to keep myself on the pole. If you wanna have an easier time having that top hand come off the pole, slide down, body's parallel to the ground. Now I feel like, okay, my bottom hand has a lot more control over my weight here. So this is probably going to be your most stable position in your Jasmine. Body is parallel to the ground. My hands have slid down to allow that, and I've locked in this position with the bottom hip flexor really pinning in and engaging with the bottom leg. The next part of our combo is going to be transitioning from our Jasmine shape into a Superman shape. So Superman, maybe you've seen this transition before. I found that a lot of people struggle initially with the transition. And one thing that you might see like on Instagram or something is a lot of pole dancers will like effortlessly hop into this transition, kind of looking a little bit more like this, which is a little bit harder if it's your first go at that transition. And I found more success with people if they enter it without that bouncing of the top leg, that top knee, and you kind of approach it slower and stiffer, and then you can get a little bit more fancy and quicker in the movement. But again, we're gonna start on the ground looking at the slower transition that I'm gonna teach you today. So obviously the Superman kind of ends up with our legs right here in between the pole. It's not the most comfortable position, and the transition isn't very comfortable either. If it hurts, if your skin hurts there, you're probably doing it right, okay? So I know we don't have like a million tries on this, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that slower transition that I find people have a little bit more success with. So again, let's say that you're in the Jasmine shape, okay? The more like advanced and probably what you've seen more often is again where this top knee is kind of exploding and you fall into that Superman shape. Usually people don't find success right away with that. So taking it a little bit slower. I'm gonna keep that bottom leg engaged, right? So we have this leg. I'm really pushing it forward as far as I can go, right? Towards you guys in my case, this foot's going that way. That's really important. I still wanna feel pressure on the front of that hip flexor area. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to straighten out this leg. Okay, so now both quads are engaged, not one, but both. And as I'm doing that, this portion, so kind of like the hamstring portion of my leg, is going to slide down the pole, slide down, 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 down. And as I'm doing that, and if you're trying this at home or wherever, you're gonna feel that this top hand wants to slide down with it, and let that happen. Because if I didn't let this hand slide down, I kept pushing, it's just gonna fall off. It's gonna find its way down because there's not enough space for my torso to elongate very comfortably if this hand stays where it is, okay? So this hand has to come down as this top leg, there's a hair on me, is sliding down with it, okay? So nice engaged quads, and I'm pushing, pushing, pushing the pole with the back of this hamstring, so feeling a little bit of burn there. This hand is able to slide down, and you see how my torso is moving away from you guys? My chest is going towards the floor as my legs start to join each other. So this is the shape that we want in our Superman. And you can tell you can take that transition pretty slowly. It doesn't have to be that quick explosion of just the legs joined together. You can take your time and feel your way through the motion. So just looking at the Superman without actually getting into the transition, so just looking at it on its own on the ground. If you've never done it before, what you want to do is you want to back your butt up to the pole, and you're just going to take your hand behind you. For me, it's going to be my right. Just a simple grab around the pole, and I'm going to kind of push my head away from the pole, but I'm going to go ahead and keep my butt close to the pole. I'm sliding my legs kind of behind at this point, and I'm reaching for the ground with the opposite hand, okay? So I'm going to get lower to the floor here. So legs are going behind even more, keeping my hand connected to the pole. And now at this point, you can see my butt's kind of up in the air, all right? Not quite in that plank position that the Superman is, but my legs are squeezing together, okay? This is a position you're going to find yourself in when you're getting into your Superman. So as I'm transitioning deeper, deeper, deeper into my Superman, I'm finding kind of more of a plank position right here. You can see. So my torso is flat, and maybe you can lift your feet up off the ground. Yes, it hurts. Okay, so let's go back into that transition from our Jasmine in the air, getting into that Superman shape that we were looking at. I'm going to go ahead and enter it on my right side again. So lifting up the right hip, right knee, adjusting the arms appropriately and getting into the Jasmine, making sure that my hip flexor is nice and deep, pushing that foot forward so I'm locked in, nice and tight. Okay, so at this point, I do want to have my torso parallel to the ground. So if you're up here and you're trying to get into your Superman, you're not going to have a good time. So again, make sure that those hands are sliding down, your torso is parallel to the ground. If you're here with me, what you're going to do, you're going to make sure this is nice and engaged. You're going to squeeze open, so you're kind of in this straddle. And here we go. We're pushing that top leg down, 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 and see how this hand adjusts. So I'm kind of in this weird position here where my legs are kind of together, right? But my butt's high. Very similar to what we were practicing on the ground, right? Our butt was high. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let my chest push away from the pole and elongate. So Jasmine, find parallel to the ground. All right, so here goes the legs. Extend, squeeze, 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 squeeze. You can really see that the skin's burning and ripping and ripping. It's fine. And here, I lock my legs, okay? I've still got both hands. I'm gonna let this one slide down a little bit more so I have more room to work with. And I'm letting my feet come up, okay? That's kind of straightening out my pelvis. And I'm opening my chest. If you don't feel comfortable letting that hand go, you don't have to. Just practice here and then find the ground and here. Practice moving the hand in the right spot and extend. And then maybe you feel comfortable bringing it up, extending, or again, just kind of practice keeping it on the ground. It really is finding this kind of like bunched up, your hips are too high position to this more elongated and open position. This transition here is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of people that are first starting this opening. So if you're struggling to find that flat plank shape, let's say we're here when we've got the butt kind of high up in the ground, right? And you're struggling with the transition from being in this kind of crunched up position to that elongated shape of the Superman. One thing that you might want to try out is think about these feet, right? If your butt's high in the air and you're trying to get flat, think about lifting up the feet. You can kind of see how that like swivels my hips so that they're straighter. And then I kind of fall into that planked position. Okay, so we're gonna practice all of that on the other side. So left hip is coming up into my Jasmine. Here. Lock it in, body's parallel to the ground. And extend, close, close, close. Here's that pike position. Let that hand come down a little bit more. Extend the feet and extend away. Or use the ground. All right, guys, you're gonna put everything we learned together. Snowflake spin all the way to our Superman. All right, all the way from the snowflake. Starting, again, we want to find that stance, right? Like this. So 1, 2, and 3 coming into the pull. I'm going to start from back here. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Weave it through, hips up and away. Continue rotating, come down closer to the floor. Inside leg extends out, hand helps you through, coming up and hook onto the pole. At this point, I'm adjusting my hand so that I can find that good placement. Pistol grip. Here is that Jasmine, and then transition into Superman. Ta-da!